Hi guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you a little bit of a different video. I'm going to be talking about my favorite Audible books at the moment, or that I have read most recently. So I was really into Audible, especially while I was in school, because I also would download some of the books required by class so I can listen to it on my drive to and from school, because I did drive a long way. So I've been listening to Audible for a long time, but most recently I have been listening to a lot more fiction and self-help and a lot of autobiography books that have really sparked an interest in me. I listen to them while I'm at work, so I kind of finish them pretty quickly because I'm at work for like 8 hours a day. So yeah, I thought I would share, I want to say, my top 5 Audible books. I had things written down. I left my notebook at work, so I'm just going to be going off of the top of my head. The first book I'm going to mention is Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, and this book really struck me when I listened to it the first time, that I've been listening to it again because I wanted to get some key quotes from it. It's a really good motivational book to take charge of your life. Basically, she is very raw. She tells you about her life and her struggles that she dealt with, and she's very raw with it. She's very honest, and I really appreciate that because you just see that your life, although it's not perfect, not everyone's life is not perfect, and different ways to be better. So each chapter is a lie that people tell themselves that hinders them growing, basically. And she kind of battles that lie throughout the whole chapter. And the whole chapter is her telling you her story with it, and basically battling whatever the lie is that you tell yourself, and how you can push through that lie and become a better person. One of the big ones that I can remember off of the top of my head, what she said was, if I wanted a different life than the one that I was born into, I knew I had to work for it. And that really resonated with me because the way I grew up was definitely different from the way I'm living now, and it has always pushed me to kind of go the next step and do what I have to do to create the life that I want. So I really appreciated that quote, but there was another one that I had written down, and it was a long one, but basically it was talking about how we compare ourselves to other people, and when you're in a rut you really can compare yourself to other people and be like, what she said was like, your coworker Tammy has gotten promoted twice in 1 year, and your sister is married and has 2 kids, and you're not even dating. And when you're in a down rut, you're comparing yourself to the other people and what their big milestones in their life is, and how you're not reaching it yet. And you feel like something is wrong with you, or you're not good enough, or you don't deserve it, or something like that. This is where the girl wash her face part of the title comes into the book, is she said, like, you're allowed to feel down and out. You're allowed to be frustrated and upset and cry if you have to, if that's what you need to do to move forward, but get back up and wash your face and get on with your life and continue on. And that really resonated with me, and I really love this book. If you're a mom, you will also really love this book. She has a few chapters about being a new mom guilt, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, I'm not a mom yet, but it was really eye-opening to hear about it too. So definitely purchased this book and gave it to my mom. I told my sisters to read it. Like, I really love this book. And I'm reading her next book, which is Girl Stop Apologizing. I'm reading the paper version, so not on Audible, but once I'm done with that, I will definitely let you guys know if I like it. I'm sure I will, because I really like her style of writing. I like that when you're listening to it on Audible, it's her speaking, and it really sounds like she's just talking to you. It's just a conversation. So I really appreciate that. So the second book that I'm going to talk about is called Maid by Stephanie Land. This is what the cover looks like. It says, hard work, low pay, and a mother's will to survive. It's basically an autobiography. Stephanie talking about her life leaving an abusive relationship and being homeless with a young child, and being a first-time mother and trying to find out how to survive. Her story is very raw. She doesn't spare any details. She talks about all of her struggles, and I just thought it was a really eye-opening book of how different your life can be when you don't have the support around you. I listened to it while I was at work. I'm pretty sure I cried multiple times listening to it because it's just so crazy how your life can turn out so different than what you thought it would be, and how much the people around you really affect the life that you live. Because her biggest struggle of why she was homeless and everything was because she didn't have support of her family. If she had her parents and they were able, her mom did not live in the country, I think she had said, and her dad did live in the country, but he was also scraping by, so he wasn't really able to help her. He was living with his girlfriend in a trailer, and like she obviously had a child, and like it was just too much to ask of her parents, and I believe she was an only child, so she didn't have anyone else to kind of depend on or ask for help. And it's just really eye-opening how different your life can be when you don't have that support system. And it just made me feel really thankful. She did work as a maid, so that's why it's called Maid, and she talks about kind of the different people she encountered while she was being a maid and the different stories that they had as well. So that one's a really good one. The third book I want to talk about is called In the Country We Love, My Family Divided by Diane Guerrero. This is another autobiography, and she was in Orange is the New Black. So we know how her story ends, but to hear the beginning of her story and the beginning of her life and how it is so similar to what is going on today is really eye-opening. She talks about how her parents were deported, both of them, and she was left alone in this country as a young child. Like, I think she was 13 or 14 years old. Like, she was still an adolescent child, and this country failed her. Basically, the system failed her. They took her parents and never came for her, never came to come see if she was okay or anything. She was born in the States. She didn't have any of her family here. Like, they took her parents while she was at school, and when she came home, her parents were gone and no one came. CPS did not come, the government didn't come, no one came for her. I could not wrap my head around that. And that is exactly what is going on in this country today. Like, this was years ago. She's, I think, like in her mid-20s now. So this was over 10 years ago, and it's still happening today, and that is what makes me so upset when I'm listening to this story. But it just makes you feel so grateful for what you have. She talks about her struggles kind of growing up without her mom, growing up without her dad, and growing up without her brother as well, and how she had to depend on the kindness of her friends and her friends' family to kind of take her in. It's a very heartbreaking story, but it is a really good read. My number 4 recommendation, I don't even have to look at my phone right now. My number 4 recommendation is probably like my top one whenever anybody asks me what book they should read. If they haven't read it already, it is Becoming by Michelle Obama. It is narrated by her too, so again, it's like you're just listening to her talk. It just feels so much more personal when you can hear the author of the book talking. And when it's an autobiography, it just hits home way more. In this book, she basically talks about her whole upbringing and everything, including when her and her family did live in the White House. And basically, she's just a badass. I don't know how other way to say it, but she is a badass. She's very educated. Reading it, it just made me even more in awe of her. She, by herself, is a badass. And then her and Barack were just like a great team. She talks about how they met, and I just thought it was the funniest thing, and how she kind of just was not interested in him at all, and how different her life turned out because of him, and she didn't expect it at all. If you want to learn about her life and how much she is as an individual, not just as the first lady, then I definitely recommend the book. It is a longer book, but it is definitely worth the listen. So the 5th and final book that I'm going to mention today is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. I know it's a movie now, but if you guys do have the chance, I definitely recommend you listening to it or reading it. It is just so good. This one, again, is a longer one. It is 11 hours on Audible, 11 hours and 40 minutes. It was a long one, but it's 100% better than the movie, 100%. But basically, if you guys aren't familiar with the book or the movie, it is about basically what is happening today with the Black Lives Matter movement. It is basically the injustices that are in our legal system and the police brutality on African American people in society today in 2019 is basically what it is about. The backstory is it's a young girl who does not live in the best neighborhood. She lives in the neighborhood that her dad grew up in. Again, it's not a good neighborhood, but her family works really hard and they send their children to a private school that is outside of the neighborhood. She goes to a party one night and she's with one of her friends from the neighborhood. They were like best friends when they were kids. They were just reconnecting. She gets in the car with him and as they're driving, they get pulled over by the police and he is shot. He's unarmed, a young 16-year-old or 17-year-old African-American male, and he was shot and there was no consequences for the police officers, and it's just her telling her story. This is not a real story, but it is pretty much what is happening today. And her fight and her trying to find her voice to speak up for what is going wrong, as well as the implications it has on her and her psyche, is what it really is. It's really a good read and I definitely recommend it. This book is in the young adult section, I believe, but it is 100% a good book for anyone to read. And when I first read it, I was in awe. I cried so many times. Like, I just could not believe what I was hearing. And to know that this is a reality today is even more heartbreaking. That completes my top 5 Audible books to read as of now. If you guys like book recommendations or book videos in general, definitely let me know and I will make more of it because I love reading and I love listening to good books. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me ramble, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.